Okay. Well, if everybody can hear me, hello and welcome. My name is Deja Sanyu. I am the VP of Programming for PRSSA, and I am also a member of the Bateman competition. I'm a senior, so I will be graduating this May, and I'm very excited to be here. So thank you so much, Liv and Katie, for joining us. Liv Moore works with Netflix. She is also acknowledged as a Forbes 30 under 30. And then we also have Katie Hutchings, who is VP of Marketing for Skydance Media.
Skydance. What's it called, Katie?
Skydance.
Where do you work?
Where is this place?
I know.
Yeah, no, Skydance. And so today's meeting is we're just going to talk about what it's like for you guys. What is it like working in the entertainment industry, specifically with your company? Also, if you've worked with any big brands, big names, tell us a little bit about that. So whoever would like to go first, Liv or Katie, we would love to hear from you.
Katie can go first. Okay, either way.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so great to meet you. I graduated from the J School in 2009, so I am very old here. To be a first year again. Was just reminiscing about my days at the wall. My job is I am the Vice President of Marketing here at Skydance Media. So Skydance is an independent studio and production company, and we work on some of the biggest films from Top Gun Maverick, which will be out this May, to Grace and Frankie, which Liv probably knows very well, which is on Netflix. My position here is to help oversee and collaborate with our distributors, which is the Netflixes of the world, the Amazons, the Apples, all of that jazz, to ensure that our titles, Top Guns, Missions, Tomorrow War, again, TV shows, are marketed appropriately for us and to our standards for the most part. In addition to that, I also help oversee all of our brand initiatives. So making sure that the Skydance brand is at the front and center of everything that we do, and to help build our social channels, our digital presence, and our physical presence as well. So I help support features, television, interactive, which is gaming, our animation studio, which is headed by John Lasseter, who's the creator of Pixar, as well as new media, which is spearheaded by Amy Hennig, who is the creator of one of the biggest games that's ever been created, and is now about to be a feature film with with Spider-Man. So I help to support all that. So I can tell you a little bit about my career and, talk about what I do in my day-to-day. I think probably my career journey is a little bit more interesting than the day-to-day. So my path has not been linear. I also was a journalism major with an emphasis on public relations, and I minored in speech comm. I started off as a corporate communications agency in Vegas, where I'm originally from. I decided that I realized that I did not like corporate comm. Corporate real estate was not my journey and not my path. So I left and I moved into a girlfriend's studio here in LA and lived on a futon for a month until I started to get a job at Warner Brothers. From there, I worked on their loyalty program for the studio, where if you bought a certain amount of DVDs or Blu-rays, you got swag. I don't know if you guys know what Blu-rays or DVDs are. This was before the days of streaming, when Netflix sent out DVDs, which I remember getting in college with my girlfriends. And I got that job based off some skills that I learned at the J School, actually, from Photoshop and some basic coding. From there, I started to see a real need. Facebook had just opened up their platform to be more inclusive of people outside of college. And I started to see that, brands and companies were really starting to use Facebook as a means for a website. And so from there, I taught myself how to use social media in terms of marketing for the company. So I then started to transition into the home entertainment team. So for a little bit of background into just sort of the theatrical process. So a film, for example, will go into development. Once it's in development, it then goes into production. Once it's in production, it then goes into the theatrical window. That's when it goes right to Netflix, or it goes right to your Amazon or Apple, or right to theaters. And then once it's there, it'll be there for a certain amount of time, depending on the success of the film also, at least in the theaters. Then it'll transition into this sort of limbo phase. And then it went into the home entertainment window. So this is when, like, hey, this is out new on DVD. That's sort of where my group really thrived. And then once it was out of the home entertainment theatrical window, all of these titles were going into limbo, right? Like you had The Notebook, which is like, everyone fucking loves The Notebook. You can't get away from it. But it was like, hey, you like Ryan Reynolds, you like him in this film too. And what I started to see is like, hey, if we actually engaged our fan base to see, we can really show an ROI on these titles, right? Like we can increase these sales. Once we started to do that, we saw on The Notebook specifically, we saw a 17% of increase in DVD sales that year. So the studio put more money behind what we were doing, and I went from managing just a couple titles to 160 Facebook titles at that point. From there, I transitioned to agency side, where Netflix at the time, this is also going to date me, only had 3 original TV shows, where I took on Orange is the New Black. I can remember when Uzo Aduba had 24 followers and nobody knew who the hell she was. And then there was this white girl who was trying to talk in this slang that I knew nothing about. And so I then, for the first 3 seasons of Orange is the New Black, I took it from 0 to millions of followers to one of the most talked about shows on social media. But my time there at this agency really helped shape me, because it was one of Netflix's pivotal points, I think, for the streamer. And Liv can probably talk more about this too as well. But we sort of saw the streamer transition from, okay, we're talking about these shows and trying to pinpoint on people's emotions, to really saying, hey, we want to create these moments for people and press hits and really start to bring us to the forefront. So what we started to do is really listen to the community, start to dive in and see what they were doing. And there I became more of a 360 marketer, right? And PR is in a larger ecosystem of what I do. So I touch on PR, I touch in out-of-home advertising, I touch in digital advertising. I am always also a firm believer that everyone should work in an agency at some point, because it makes you a more holistic marketer as well. But I started to learn about events, out-of-home advertising, which are the billboards that you see when you drive down the 395, or the social media ads that you get pinpointed on when you're like, what? I just was talking about this. Why is now Facebook just, showing me that these boots that I need to buy, which I do need to buy those boots, are now in my face? So I started to learn a little bit about that. While I was at the advertising agency, my sort of horizons broadened, where I was not just working on home entertainment titles. I started working with Martin Scorsese on his film called Silence. Again, Orange is the New Black. I was working with big brands like Rockadog, which were those really ugly platform shoes in the 90s that you know nothing about, but that were super cool and have a really cool office in downtown. I was in a room with Laureen Powell Jobs, who is Steve Jobs' widow, working on education reform. So it really sort of just spiraled down from there. I've also worked on Lucasfilms and Star Wars during that transition with Disney, Beauty and the Beast. I've managed the Harry Potter franchise. I was actually just watching the Harry Potter, I'm a big Harry Potter nerd, on HBO Max, and I was at the premiere. That was my first premiere that I worked, and I'm in the background, you see, with Emma Watson. I was like, yeah, and I forgot how wonderful that feeling was, and in that moment I was like, yeah, that's great. From there, I went consultancy side, where I helped with, I was trying to start a business with a colleague of mine and help her get it off the ground. In the meantime, I had to make money. So I worked with Lee Daniels, who is a prominent director in the field, as well as, again, Paramount Studios, working on a film called Crawl and various other titles that they had coming out. And then I decided I needed a W-2 life, and Skydance Media was a former client of mine while I was at the agency, and I landed here. So my role here too is, again, I'm helping to support marketing efforts for all of our team. One of the great example I can show is, well, I can show you a couple, but talk about a couple. So Reacher is a new show that is coming out on Amazon. It'll coming out Friday. Make sure you watch it. But it was a film with Paramount, originally with Tom Cruise, and now it's with Alan Richardson, who was in The Hunger Games. He's in Titans, which is another show on the CW. You might not know his name, but if you looked him up, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. So we have the premiere tomorrow. So one of my core positions here is to work with the Amazon marketing team and the digital team over there to help promote the show. I utilize our paid media to broaden our reach across all channels, as well as making sure that Skydance is mostly at the forefront as much as we can. Skydance isn't a super well-known entity to those who are not in the industry, but we work really closely with all of our distributors to make sure that our titles are really promoted and heavily marketed. So if you ever go to LAX between now and I think the next month, you'll run into Alan and Reacher, because it seems to be all over LAX. And various other points. So tomorrow I'll be working our red carpet, but because of COVID, it's now a drive-in, and talking to talent, posting from our social channels, working with their team over there on what they're posting as well. So it's really a collaboration for us, where as a distributor, normally I would be the one that's sort of setting the tone or working with the production company to say, hey, here is our vision. What do you guys think about this? Where now I'm on the other side and saying hey, I don't like that. That's not really working for our audience. Or, hey, we need to maybe add Alan and take a shirt off, or make sure that we're expanding to our female demographic, because he's very attractive. Same thing, said it with Michael B. Jordan. Hey, we should be doing this because it is a military film, but we need to broaden our demographic to the ladies as well. So those are a couple of things that I sort of do on my day-to-day and my career journey, which is a lot. So if you guys have questions, please let me know. And Liv, I'm sure will outshine me completely. So you also do your thing, girl.
I am loving this, because it seems like we almost do exactly the same thing and also nothing in common, one, I wish you would have talked when I was in school, because this would have been so helpful. What, I don't know where to start now, because I was I don't know, I got too excited. So I'm Liv. I work at Netflix. I've been there almost 4 years. I graduated from the J School in 2017. So I started at Netflix about a year after that, which was wild. As I think looking back, I'm I don't know how we pulled that off. That was a tough one. But what I do is mainly strategy to win awards. So when we say awards in entertainment, we're talking Oscars, Grammys, Emmys, and there's all sorts of kind of smaller things. But I guess to pull back the curtain for people, not the best movie doesn't always win. A lot of people who love entertainment complain about that, or the best album or the best song. That's mainly because of people like me, because there's obviously a vested interest for people to win awards. So we go in and we strategize and we make things win. So a lot of what we do is very similar to a political campaign almost, where part of it is, your public relations. So talking to the press, getting the right articles, getting the right kind of conversations happening. The next part of it is marketing, which is what you're paying for. So that's your, like Katie said, your out of home, your billboards, your social media, anything you're paying for people to see. And then the third section, which I think is a little unique to the awards space, but it's true of any PR position, is we're the spokesperson for the film or for the album or for whatever it is. So sometimes that's in a way where if you're standing with your talent, which can be anybody from the director to the singer to the writer, they can be famous, they can be not famous, the whole gamut. And you're kind of facilitating that conversation for them. For me, it's between that talent and an awards voter. So somebody who votes for the Oscars. And sometimes that goes really well because people really want to meet the person you're with. And sometimes it goes very poorly because the person you're with is either not famous or not nice or doesn't want to be there. So you start to really just be the conversation and you still have to sell whatever's happening. And then other times that talent isn't there at all. And you're just at lunch with these people or at parties or, well, in Zoom world now, and you have to speak and make that person or that film so interesting and engaging that they are either driven to watch the film or they're driven to vote for it. And the talent's not with you. So you're really part of what's happening. Which I think a lot of times, like we talk about like, oh, the spokesperson, that must be like the comms officer, who's like out at the press conference. And that's true for a lot of things, but for us, it's just a day to day, you're on the ground acting as a representative of that person. Day to day for me is a little all over the place because in my position right now, I kind of oversee a lot of what's happening or like create the idea. So when you guys are doing Bateman and IMC and you're kind of building out that like objective to plan to tactic stuff, that's what I do. So, and then someone else might be doing the actual execution of it. So you have to be really sure in your idea that you're going to pass on to the rest of your team that this is good and this will work. Because you're not, I think what so many of us do in those positions, especially in like the IMCs and the Batemans, because it's our first time. So we're like, okay, we're going to have a social media strategy. And then you get in there and it's not working. It's not going well. You're not getting results. And you're like, okay, well, shit. So we'll just change it. When you're overseeing things, your team is executing them. They might change them if they're smart and they're good. But if they're just following direction, then it's not going to work. So you really have to know what's going on, even if you're over here or looking at this. The other thing that I would have never thought in a million years about my position right now is, so I oversee all of our documentaries. So that's doc film, doc series, doc shorts, which I'm obsessed with. But for the Emmys, I just did, like which documentary titles are going where. I'm overseeing about 96. That's like a huge, huge number. And I'm sure for Katie, like the number of projects you guys have, I thought I'd have 4. When I graduated college, I was like, what would be crazy is if we had to do like 5 Batemans at one time or something. It's 96. And that's not including, I also oversee a lot of our music stuff. It has nothing to do with that. So you guys have to really know what's going on and project manage and do all these things. But that being said, I promise I'll like wrap it up. That being said, is what you're interested in. Because when we were doing intros earlier, somebody said they're a photography minor, someone's in business or international. And if you're good at that and you think you can like run that segment within your larger PR job or marketing job, that's how you move up. Is because you've become expert at, how to use Photoshop. Weirdly enough, I guarantee you half the people I work with do not know how to use Photoshop or anything like that, or know how to pick up a camera and like actually take a really good photo. So know what your specialty can be. For me, mine was that I love music and I love hip hop. And so I went in there and I was working on documentaries. And then we had a thing with Beyonce, we had a thing with Travis Scott. And now we're doing a Kanye West documentary. And nobody on my team was like really interested in that, but I'm like a diehard, like that's what I live for. And could go in and speak with talent and understand what their story is and where they come from and what's special to them, because that's what I'm obsessed with. And as soon as I started making those points, now I oversee our music docs for what I do, and I was able to move up. So know what you're good at and what you like, and it'll really help you. Yeah.
Questions?
I had a quick question. What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced so far, and how did you prepare for those challenges in the future once you found a better strategy?
I mean, There's so many.
I know.
That can be up for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest challenge, look, any job you take, especially when you're starting your career, you're gonna encounter some shit, right? Like that you're not gonna know something and you're not gonna know how to do something, or you are not, you know, you mess up something and you have to correct it. I think the biggest challenge from my perspective has been my own sort of insecurities and my own imposter syndrome, my own thoughts and feelings. Because at the end of the day, you can always teach yourself something. You can always, it's just a job. It's not rocket science. No one's died. No one's done anything. You know, you get fired, you go on to the next one. It's that you stop yourself sometimes, or at least I do. And I feel like a lot of people do this as well. And Allison has talked me off of the ledge multiple times, truly, throughout my entire career. So please, like, know that you should lean on your professors and mentors even after you graduate, because Allison has been one of those for me, is that
I am for the rest of you too. You're all my favorites. And so it's a lifetime appointment if you so choose.
Yes. But it's been my own self. That's been my own obstacle, is thinking that I can't do something or I can't take this on. You know, I'll be one to say, like, there have been numerous times where I've been in a room and I'm like, I just went to school in Reno. Like, that's where, like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've said that when I'm like in a room with Lorraine Paljobs or next to someone has their master's, who went to Harvard, who went to Yale. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And, you know, or my promotion that I got to vice president, like, I thought when someone was promoted to a certain position, like, they had their shit together. Sorry, I cuss a lot. It's the Irish in me.
They're used to me.
You know, they had their shit together. They knew everything about everything. Like, they weren't, you know, all of these things that they knew everything. And then I got promoted. I'm like, I know nothing about anything. I can't hold liquor anymore. I drink 2 glasses of wine. And then it's like, night. Like, but at the end of the day, I'm kicking ass and I know it, and I am doing the best I can. And if I'm putting it all in the field, to put it in sports terms. And if I don't know something, I teach myself something. So the biggest obstacle is always yourself, from my perspective. Yeah, not to get philosophical on like what it all means, but if you all want to talk about that, I can talk about that too.
I think mine was like not the opposite, but it was like a different kind of like of the same cloth, because I struggled so much when I first started. I was a PR assistant at a PR firm, which was very thankful and grateful to be there. But I just wanted to prove so badly that I could do more than pick up dry cleaning. Like, I knew I had to do my time. I knew I had to pledge. I was very okay with that, which everybody should be for a certain amount of time, that sometimes you have to do your time. And I did great. But the biggest challenge for me was like, how do I get, it felt like there was this ceiling above being an assistant that I just couldn't break through. And I didn't know how people did it. And I wanted to do it faster. And it was just this thing that was constantly on my mind of, I want to do all these things, but right now they get passed to the person over there. So how do I get in? And a lot of what I started doing, and if you're going to take this advice, you have to do it in a super respectful way, because people are finicky sometimes, is if my boss was writing a press release or a pitch or something and he was really stressed out about it, I would just offer to write it for him, because I know my strongest thing I bring to the table is writing. So if your strongest thing is social media, don't offer to write the press release, offer to do the social, you know, pick your lane. And what he found was that his life was a lot easier if he could just have me write his stuff and he would send it out. I didn't do it without asking him. I didn't make him look bad. I did it to serve him as his assistant. So there's you have to really do it the right way. But that was how I kind of got through. Okay, I'm not picking up coffee as often. I still am, but now I'm writing. And then eventually, instead of his name being the media contact, he's like, I don't want to deal with this. So it's my name, which was like, okay, we're making moves here. And it takes time. This is not like going to happen within a week. This was like a 6-month process of me finally being able to like have my name on something. And the first thing that my name was on was this very random film, but Hillary Clinton was super obsessed with it. And she wanted to come to the screening and like invite her friends. So we sent out this release, Hillary Clinton host screening for whatever movie it was. And I was the media contact. So I was like, I've died. I've gone to heaven. This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. Little did I know that when you're the media contact, people do contact you. So I had all these emails about like, well, can we have a quote about the film? What did she say? What did she wear? Which still blows my mind that people care about that, but that's fine. But then that was the next challenge was, well, I can't go ask my boss every single time. How do I deal with, in entertainment? We're not just working with movie stars. Sometimes it is political figures. Sometimes it is very complicated teams and people. What did she say about the movie? Because I wasn't there. So like, do we have a quote? So that was the next challenge. But if you're putting yourself in the position to get the challenge, there's that old saying of like, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. If you're in a safe place where you can be uncomfortable and you're going to know whether you're safe or not, do it and get through it, because there's stuff I'm working on right now where I'm like, oh God, we will see. But that was the only way. But I constantly am just like, how can I prove myself? How can I get to doing what I want to do? Yeah.
I'll also add to that, because I think Liv brings up a great point, is throughout your career, you're going to be given like, no job is ever what the description is that you apply for, truly. Like, you're going to be doing so many other things. And I like to call it being a Swiss Army knife, is to be able to help where you can and help in things that you might not be fully interested in or fully well-versed in, but can dabble, right? Like, I got my first job based off some Photoshop skills that I learned at the J School. I am not a designer. You asked me to like move a logo, sure, but like to build this extraordinary thing, I know nothing about. But to be able to volunteer for things, whether it's writing some synopses on something that could help you, which is something I did to work with our tech team at Warner Brothers. Like, they found out I could write a little bit and they're like, oh, great. Would you mind helping? Absolutely. I will help with this. Or when you're at an agency too, again, I will always advocate for this, is learning. You might not know how to do out of home, but you'll quickly learn it, or how to put on an event. Now I know that I need, COI, certificate of insurance, from every vendor that goes there, which I didn't know at first, but now that I do, whenever we hold an event, I can now plug in. You make yourself more valuable to the company by learning a little bit of everything. And you don't have to be an expert. I truly believe that experts don't really exist, at least in the digital field or in my field. Like, if someone tells me they're a guru, I just call bullshit, because our industries are changing and evolving so quickly, especially the digital and social world as well. So what I think I know now, tomorrow is completely changed, right? Like, Instagram and Facebook can completely open up something. TikTok is now this, and Twitch is that, and Clubhouse is now coming up, and now it's died again. Like, there are so many things that are up and coming that I think you should constantly try and think of yourself as a student. Always a student of your craft. It's cool to know things. It's cool to be well-versed in your field. And I think that Liv really brings up that great point of dabble in everything, try everything, because as you go, even if you don't know it, because that could also be a big challenge, right? Like, I don't know how to do this, so I'm not even going to volunteer for it. Always try and volunteer, but also make sure you can like somewhat succeed in it. Like, don't volunteer to write a press release if you don't know how to write, or if you don't know a format of a press, but if you do know how to write, you can go up online and say, how do I format a press release? But I know Allison has taught you those things. Or how do I need to tap into this campaign, marketing campaign. Okay. I know how to write goals, I know how to write objectives, and I know how to write tactics. Cool. Let me do some research online. So just continue to think of yourself as a student throughout this entire process, throughout your entire career.
That's a really good point on, like, say someone asks you put together a marketing deck, which, like, if someone asked me to do that, I'd be like, okay, like, you're never going to know what they're looking for because the person asking you probably doesn't know either. Someone probably asked them for a deck and now they're asking you. If you write in there goals, objectives, tactics, you guys probably think that seems like elementary or too Stratcom 101. No, they're going to think you're really smart, because I swear to God, every single thing when I write a campaign, right now I'm working on a Kanye West documentary, which I really hope you all watch on February 16th. But the first thing I did was go in and I always write my campaigns because I'm a visual person. Like, if it's not written down, like on a physical piece of paper, it does not exist to me. As Allison knows, I can be a space cadet. So it has to be physically on paper. But what I do is I write, what is the goal? Okay, objective, or switch around those words. What are the tactics? If you put words like that on pretty much anything, people think you're really, really smart. And it's really funny because that's what you guys are doing. Well, that too. But it's just like the craziest thing to me. And then if someone goes in your deck and deletes your stuff and moves it around, you still made the deck. So and the other thing that Katie brought up is this TikTok thing. I love TikTok. I swear to God, it's my favorite thing on the planet. You guys most of you are in a position where you're graduating, or actually all of you are graduating or have just graduated. You guys are young, and speaking from experience, people are not happy with young people because they're taking their jobs or whatever. But there will be those moments when they're like, oh, you're okay. Well, what's TikTok? What's this? You should know that. When I graduated, it was Twitter. No one knew what was going on with Twitter. Now it's TikTok. Probably some things that I really haven't heard of at this point. But even if you're not like a TikTok person, have it, understand what the feed means, at least like have a general sense of how you would make a TikTok. For me, that was how are Instagram stories working? I think those came out like the semester I graduated. You should know, because people are going to look at you and think you do. You should also know, like Katie said, Clubhouse was a thing. Now it's not a thing. It's dead. And then it came back and now it's not. Just know this. Are people on Reddit? Like, I don't know. You should know that, because you're the young people and they're going to look at you for those questions.
So true. So true. They're going to assume you know. But from a business perspective, not just like, you all know how to make a TikTok, you all know how to do your Instagram, you can make a reel, you can do that. But for you, what they're going to want and assume is that you're going to know how to do it for business, any business.
And that means follow, like I was obsessed with in school. I wanted to work for like a Nike or an Under Armour for a while before I discovered entertainment was a thing. Follow North Face, follow REI, follow Patagonia. How do they do their stuff? How would you do it better? How would you do it different? What's this? What's that? So now you know what you like, what people are actually doing. So for me, like Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Peacock, all these streamers, how do they market? What does that mean? How do they do that? You should all know that, just from a general, like, I went on my phone today sense.
Other questions? Hunter, you almost asked it. Go.
So hi guys. So something, and also I'm like, this is so, like, I've been looking forward to this meeting for so long, and this is so cool to hear everything. Liv, I see your banner outside the library. So yes, but so something I think about a lot, I just applied for my first job here at UNR, and something I think about a lot is like resume building and like soft skills, technical skills. So I guess this can go to both of you. Like, what are some hard and soft skills that someone should have in your industry?
It's a great question.
I don't know what hard and soft skills mean at this point in life, but I will say,
so soft skills, Liv, are the teamwork, the organization skills, the talk to anybody, speak, and then the hard skills are, you can use an iPhone upside down and sideways and still get a good picture and stuff like that.
The thing Okay, that makes more sense. Because I was thinking the thing they always told us was show numbers on your resume. And I was like, I want to write things. There's not a lot of numbers happening. But I finally figured it out was for Bateman IMC, that Todd Felt's class, Allison's ethics class, any class where you're making a project or making a thing, make that a like case study within your resume. So I did this for some students last semester. I'll send you my resume from college. I think it's hilarious now, but it'll help like put into terms because I was doing all the stuff you guys did. If you're doing like, I was in Todd Felt's class, we did the grad school integrated marketing campaign. I was an account exec. So I would put on my resume as account exec, comma, planned, executed, whatever your verbs are, a campaign for the graduate school at the university with a target of this many students or this many views, or like think about how you can take those things and put them into, I guess what I'm saying is making your soft skills the hard skills instead of saying teamwork because you were in Todd Felt's class where you worked on a team. Like how can you kind of like switch those into something else? Soft skills, I'm thinking of this as like qualitative and quantitative, is like they should be the same thing. Like on a team of 5, increased Twitter followers by 100%. That's showing that you worked on a team and you can collaborate, or like using Photoshop created X amount of assets is how I would probably phrase those. And then you're not taking up as much space. I don't know. Katie probably has a better answer though. So
I wish I did. I haven't had to have a resume in a while. But I think Liv's right. I know specifically for our industry, it depends on where you want to go, right? Like if you're going to the streamers, the Netflixes, Apples, Amazons, and when you're kind of going in your career, they want to see statistics, right? They want to see numbers in terms of how much you grew an audience or what your reach is on a specific thing. I think including these campaigns that you guys are working on in school is really crucial. From my perspective as someone who hires someone, and I have a team, I manage a team of 6. I don't really necessarily look for those soft skills like teamwork, detail oriented. Like to me, we can put that, but that feels less important than like what I'm actually trying to hire for. I want to know that you have the skills that I am looking for. So, because anyone can say they're detail oriented and completely not be. So what I would do is to make sure that within the job description itself is to always customize and tailor your resume to whatever job you are applying for. Your resume should never look the same for any position, and take away what they've got in the bullets and build it from there on how on how you know how to address it. So it could be like, talk to people on social media. That's no one would ever really say that. It's very broad, but you could say within this campaign that you're doing for school is managed all social media platforms and grew audiences 25%. You don't have to say like 0 to 100 or grew it to 100 followers, but give a percentage to make it sound bigger and more important, and just go from there. Utilize tools. I would say necessary things. Photoshop is always a thing. It's always going to be a thing. And if you know how to do it, you're in good shape. I would say basic coding. If you could ever learn that, there are free classes. I think I took one from Stanford once. Learn how to basic code, learn paid media. Specifically, if you want to go into digital, paid media is really big and is at the forefront of our industry. Specifically in social media, every platform is you have to pay to play. So if your business is not paying, you're not getting any eyes on your content. So doing that, so keeping an eye on paid media and what that looks like. So those are sort of the core things, at least in the business that I'm in. I'd also say, I started college and took 096 math. Like I am not a math genius. I never have been. That being said, in my current position, I am managing budgets. I am having to put budgets together for media buys. I have to keep an eye on all of this, and it's not A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It's not rocket science, but to really think of things not just from a creative standpoint, but to also think to be business oriented as much as you can as possible. So that's something that I would say you should keep an eye on. And add to your resume should you be able to, is that you know how to balance budgets, you know how to look at things creatively, and to add statistics where you can, percentages where you can. Now, like the major studios, like Warner Brothers, standard Warner Brothers, or Paramount's, versus, they're not going to be as crucial as looking at those type of numbers where the streamers are. So again, it's all about tailoring your resume to the audience every single time.
Get somebody to look at your resume. It's the most awkward and uncomfortable experience of your entire life. Trust me, I avoided it for years. And the second that my PRSSA mentor is Jackie Allison, which kept me in safe area, she was like, this isn't bad, but if you just did this, and like 17 other things, it'd be really good. And getting over myself and like the fear of having somebody critique my work history more or less, was really crucial for me. Same with cover letters, because Katie's right. You should never have the same anything for any job you're applying to. Cover letters are really simple, and you can keep most of the information the same. The way I do a 3-paragraph cover letter. So the first paragraph will be like, your company is the greatest place on the planet because. If you're going towards an agency, I interned at the Abbey agency in college, one of the best experiences of my college career. I said why I admire the Abbey agency. And then I cited like 2 specific clients that I had recently seen that they did great work with. And I figured that out because I follow them on Twitter. So they're like, Visit Fallon has done XYZ. I was like, I loved this campaign. Just do some work. Every agency will have their clients listed. Paragraph 2 is why you're great. So you do this, you're in this club, you do all these things. Paragraph 3 is why you'd be great together. So you'd say, for example, I mean, it's tougher for internships, but you can say just like, because I'm interested in, local events or tourism or whatever it is, or I've done great social media work. You guys do that. I'd be a great fit for this position. And you wouldn't say exactly like that, but it's really simple. So you can keep your why you're awesome paragraph the same for most anything and just tweak it a little bit. And then you can start busting out these job applications. So if you just spend some time, it'll come together and it'll work.
Also, scrub your social media, people. Scrub it completely.
Sorry to interrupt, but can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, one moment. Keep going.
I'm confused. Just scrub your social media.
I have a question.
Sure.
I forgot. Sorry, you can go on.
Oh, I got a question.
I got a question too.
Yeah. What if I'm a convicted felon?
That happens. I think that you, as someone who has a convicted felon in my family, you have to own up to it. And if they do a background check and they ask you about it, you own up to it and talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Katie, what you're saying about social media, I agree. Go through it again, even if you have the no, I've never posted, anything with alcohol. That was such a big thing in my sorority, or anything, with whatever it may be nowadays. I don't know. But go through again. I would say if you're not going for a position in politics, really take a look at what you've posted over the last few years that you might not be proud of at this point. There's something for having an opinion, which sure as hell no, we all do, and we should. But also if you've been combative, if you've been aggressive with your opinions, that can be a turnoff for people. So just take a really, really good look at what you've been doing and how you've been speaking to other people, even if you still agree with the opinion you have. I know a couple of friends who have gotten in trouble for that, even when their employer agreed with them. It's how you're talking to other people in a public forum, in terms of how you're addressing people when they don't agree with you and things like that. It's really easy. And Instagram, what it comes down to, I'm sure you feel a similar way. So I'm looking at Instagram. It's like, I don't care if you had a beer at a baseball game. Like, that's not what we're afraid of. It's the kind of people you want to hang out with versus the kind of people you don't, which are the people who seem a little self-absorbed on some of these things, or just seem a little strange. Look at what you're posting. If that's not who you are anymore, that's not, think about it. And it's tough because you have to be really, really self-reflective on what you're doing. Especially, I mean, my freshman year of college, Instagram was a damn shame. And I had to go through and delete everything, but you need to scroll back to, for me, that was 2012. You need to scroll back and you need to delete. You can archive, but you need to get rid of it because people look, I look, and I mean, somebody's going to be on my team. I want to know.
And to add to that, it's from my perspective, it's less about who you surround yourself with, but it's in these photos, and it's when you sign up, when you put your resume into a company, if you were to apply to Skydance, I automatically go and look for you on social media to see who you are, to see what you're interested in. I don't care if you are self-absorbed, if you like yourself, that's great. You want yourself to be confident, but it's if, the values that you are showing on your social media reflect the values of the company. And what that looks like. So if you want to chug a beer and post a picture of yourself with a beer bong, that's cool. I like to do that. Sometimes it's not bad, but are you doing it naked? Okay, maybe that might be questionable. Or, if you are invested in a political or if you're an activist and you are super passionate about something, it's about, is the company as vocal as you about your own perspective? If they are, it's probably a good fit. If they're not, they might look at it as I don't want to say a liability, but they might want you to tone down a little bit. Are you going to be spilling our company secrets across social, those sort of things? So it's just being mindful of what you have on there and how those reflect the values of the company that you are looking to apply to, and how you want to present yourself to this company. Because again, your boss is probably going to be looking you up and or Googling and seeing, what you're all about. So long-winded, just scrub your socials where you can.
Yeah, that's a good point in terms of activism and political things. Is a lot of people say when you're interviewing for a job, you're also interviewing them. So if that's something you're super passionate about and you're the kind of person who's I am an activist through and through, I believe in, whatever subject it may be. If you feel like that company would not agree with you, it's probably not a place that you want to work. So there comes a time where we're I just need a job, screw it. But for what you guys are looking for, if you're oof, I don't think they'd your very polite and proper things that you're posting about all these different topics, it's not going to be a fit. There's multiple companies that I'm oh, I'm interested in what they do, but I don't think it would be a fit with how I feel politically or how I feel about different social issues. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of you guys. So just think about that. And it's really easy to figure out, I might apply to this, but probably not that. And that'll keep you in being able to express what you want to express, and not getting in trouble if you're not crossing any lines, which I don't think any of you guys would because you're in PR, so you know those things.
Well, we're right on 6 o'clock on the dot. But I don't know if Katie and Liv, you have somewhere else to go. What else are you doing this evening? Do you have somewhere you have to be?
I'm at my parents' house.
I got my dog into training classes this weekend, first training class. So I have to go to an intro class to see what I have to bring. All these high value treats.
Good. Get your dog trained up. Well, I know that both of you are willing to talk to the students if they reach out. So you want to drop your digits in the chat. And Theron, you want to wrap up? Deja, you got something to say to wrap up?
Yeah. First, I'd really love to apologize, Katie, for butchering your job title, and I feel so bad.
Oh, no.
But I do want to make sure that I apologize for that. Thank you both so very much for all of your insights. It's incredibly helpful. We love to be able to join and connect with you guys. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Thank you for having us. And for me, that was really fun. One thing too, I'll leave you guys with, my email is there, my phone number is there. You have me on LinkedIn. I am happy to chat outside of this, give any advice. One thing I will leave you with is to be kind to each other, be kind in this industry, in PR, and remember to foster all of the connections that you make. Highly recommend, and Allison will probably tell you this, to email both of us as soon as this is done and follow up and stay connected.
I don't have to.
And you don't have to. But everyone that you meet, everyone in this career, I hate networking. It's the worst. I don't like to go to networking events. I suck at it. But the people that you meet along your career are always going to be there and might help you get a new job. Your next job might be the asset that you need to do something in your current position. But to stay connected and foster those relationships, foster your relationship with Allison, and be kind to each other. And thank you so much for having me. Again, always here if you guys need something.
I put message me on LinkedIn. I can't text to save my life and I lose emails. So the best thing to do is to message me on LinkedIn. But echoing what Katie said, be nice to people. I swear to God, it is the amount of, and maybe this is an entertainment specific problem. I feel like it's not. A lot of people are really competitive and don't have your best interests in mind. So this is kind of two-part. Is one, know that and be nice to them, because fighting somebody with what their issue is, one, is counterproductive, and two, you're not solving anything. Just be nice. And two is you guys can start to be, as you come up, as you know, what me and Katie are doing now, you guys can start to kind of change that a little bit. So something to think about and something to do. But besides that, LinkedIn's good for me. If you find my phone number, I'll probably answer, but who knows? And yeah, thank you for having me.
Katie, I saw that you had to run. Thank you so much again for being here.
So our next program is Deja, the
February
15th.
15th.
February 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll see you all back. Good job, people.